All right, folks, we've got the full breakdown of the cast for HBO's brand new Harry Potter series. No fluff, no clickbait, just the confirmed names, the rumors, and the huge roles still unannounced. If you're watching this, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let's dive straight into the wizarding world. Dominic McLaughlin as Harry Potter. All right, let's start with the obvious. The one name that matters most right now. And here's the thing. Nobody knows this kid. Literally. He's a total newcomer. No Instagram hype, no stage kid past, and now suddenly he's carrying one of the most iconic characters in fiction. The studio clearly wants this mystery. They're keeping him under wraps like he's carrying state secrets. And when they do that, it usually means one of two things. Either they're scared, or they're confident he blew them away in the audition room. Now think about what playing Harry actually requires. This isn't just a kid pointing a wand and saying some Latin words. Harry is complicated. He's awkward, he's traumatized, he's kind, and he's the kind of reluctant hero who didn't ask for any of this but has to rise to it anyway. You don't go from unknown to Harry without showing a full 360 of emotional weight and resilience. That's the test. Can Dominic go from lonely kid under the stairs to wizarding icon and actually grow with the role across 10 years of TV? Because that's the plan. This series is going long haul. And if they got this right, Dominic could end up being the next Daniel Radcliffe. If they got it wrong, well, we'll be talking about that for the next decade too. Arabella Stanton as Hermione Granger. Okay, let's be real. This casting broke the internet. I don't think I've seen fans this united in a while. People went wild. We're talking Reddit blowing up, Tumblr in tears, TikTok edits within minutes of the announcement. And the comments? Absolutely glowing. They were supposed to cast an actress, not the real Hermione. She is exactly the Hermione I imagined when I read the books. That was perfect, almost exactly how I imagined book Hermione. That's insane praise. Now why the hype? Arabella's already got receipts. She was Matilda in the West End production of Matilda the Musical. If you know anything about stage musicals, you know that role is brutal. Hours of singing, acting, dancing, and carrying a show night after night. That's not child actor energy. That's star energy. She's also voiced characters in musicals, which means she's got vocal control, timing, and the ability to bring emotion into just her voice. And apparently, her delivery nails book Hermione. Sharper, nerdier, funnier, more intense than Emma Watson's version. No shade to Emma. She defined movie Hermione. But Arabella? She's bringing the book Hermione energy. The girl who actually reads Hogwarts. A history for fun. The girl who says honestly Ronald and really means it. And people are even comparing her to a mix of Emma Watson and Jenna Ortega. Clever, intense, but still likable. If she can keep that balance, HBO has struck gold. Now for the trickiest one, Alastair Stout as Ron Weasley. Here's the truth. Ron is hard to cast. Everyone thinks he's just the funny best friend. But if you stop there, you've got nothing. Ron's the heart of the trio. He's insecure, jealous, sometimes bitter. But he's also the one who stays, who fights, who grows. Ron has layers, comedy, and pain, someone who can be vulnerable and brave. That's the challenge. You need someone who can make you laugh in one scene, make you mad in the next, and then break your heart right after that. Now, Alastair's basically a nobody right now. No stage credits, no viral clips, no famous parents sneaking him in. But that might be the best move. Because Ron needs to feel like the most normal of the trio. Not glamorous, not untouchable, just real. And if he and Arabella, Hermione, have chemistry, that's going to carry years of storylines. From bickering kids to slow burn romance. If that clicks, fans will eat it up. Mark my words. If Dominic, Harry, and Arabella, Hermione are the obvious picks, Alastair has the chance to be the surprise breakout. Locks Pratt as Draco Malfoy. Sliding over to the dark side. Now Draco could have been a cartoon villain. My father will hear about this, and done. But HBO has 10 seasons to work with, which means Draco gets to evolve. And that's where Locke's Pratt comes in. If you saw him in the BBC's Lord of the Flies, you know he's got that posh, panicked, entitled vibe locked down. Perfect for Draco. One description hit it on the nose. He's a product of that toxic old money household, craving approval but also just a little too good at dishing out cruelty. That's Draco, a kid trying to live up to a family name, drowning in prejudice he didn't create but fully embodies, and later realizing he's in way too deep. By year 6, Draco isn't funny. He's tragic. And Locke has the chops to play that slow burn. Also, yes, fans are already asking, blonde wig or natural bleach? Apparently, this is a big debate. Don't worry, we'll all be judging as soon as the first promo shots drop. Johnny Flynn as Lucius Malfoy. And speaking of Malfoys, Lucius himself is now Johnny Flynn. This is an inspired choice. Flynn's not a household name, but he's been everywhere. From playing David Bowie to sinister turns in dramas. He's got that slippery, soft-spoken menace down cold. He's manipulative, strategic, and scary in that I'll destroy your whole family with a whisper kind of way. That's exactly how Lucius should feel. Less cartoon villain, more prestige drama sociopath. The guy who believes he's better than you, and that's what makes him dangerous. Expect some icy, calculated moments from Flynn. If he plays it right, he'll make Lucius way more terrifying than we've seen before. John Lithgow as Dumbledore. Now let's talk about the big one. Yes, Lithgow. The guy who's played goofy aliens, Winston Churchill, and terrifying killers. He's got range. And now he's taking on one of the most complicated mentor figures in fantasy. Here's the shift. Don't expect the twinkly, candy-loving version from the movies. Lithgow's going to lean into the morally gray, emotionally heavy Dumbledore. The articles said it perfectly. Lithgow isn't aiming to recreate the mystical, aloof version we've seen before. Instead, he might bring more emotional depth, even vulnerability. And honestly, that's the Dumbledore the books gave us. The man who manipulates, regrets, hides secrets, and still loves his students deeply. Lithgow's perfect for that weight. Paapa Essiedu as Snape. Okay, buckle up because this one's controversial. Paapa Essiedu as Severus Snape. Talent? Through the roof. Paapa's been brilliant in every role he's taken on. But fans are already debating the visual side because Snape is described in the books as bat-like, greasy-haired, hooked nose. Not exactly model material. Paapa's a conventionally attractive black actor, which is a big departure. And that raises new dynamics. For example, if James Potter, likely cast as white, bullies him, does that play differently on screen? If Snape buys into blood purity ideology, how does that land with a black actor in the role? Some people love the boldness, some people are nervous. Nobody's ignoring it. And maybe that's the point. HBO made a provocative choice here. Either way, Snape is one of the most iconic characters in the franchise. Paapa's got the acting chops to nail it. Now it's all about whether the writing and direction lean into this bold take or shy away from the complexity it brings. Nick Frost as Hagrid. Big beard, bigger heart. At first glance, this is left field casting. Frost is known for his comedy. Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, The World's End. But think about those roles. He's not just the funny guy. He's the friend with heart, the guy who wears his feelings openly, sometimes too openly. And that's Hagrid. Not just the big funny guy, but a man who's deeply loyal, kind of insecure, and absolutely obsessed with magical creatures. Hagrid cries over dragons, raises giant spiders, and brings Harry a cake on his birthday. He's chaotic, but he's pure love. Nick Frost can absolutely capture that mix of humor and vulnerability. Janet McTeer as Minerva McGonagall. This is the one casting that just screams gravitas. Two-time Oscar nominee. Olivier Award winner. If you've seen her in Ozark, you know she doesn't have to raise her voice to be terrifying. She can break someone down with a single glance. That's McGonagall. Not the cozy grandma vibe the films leaned into, but the steel-spined veteran who commands every room she walks into. And honestly, that's closer to book McGonagall. This version, expect grit, war scars, and iconic one-liners delivered like daggers. And finally, for this section, Katherine Parkinson as Molly Weasley. Now, you probably know her from the IT crowd. Funny, quirky, sarcastic. But don't get it twisted. She's got emotional range. And Molly is not just comic relief. She's the matriarch of a massive family, constantly stressed, constantly worried, and eventually one of the fiercest fighters in the story. We all know the line, "Not my daughter, you beat." That moment's going to live or die based on whether Molly feels like more than just a cozy apron mom. Parkinson can balance the humor, the love, and the ferocity. If she nails it, Molly might just end up being one of the emotional anchors of the whole show. All right, we've talked about the Golden Trio, the Malfoys, Dumbledore, Snape, Hagrid, McGonagall, and Molly. But this series isn't just about the headliners. HBO clearly wants to fill out the entire wizarding world with actors who can bring depth, even in roles that the movies kind of glossed over. So let's run through the key supporting cast. And trust me, some of these are going to be way more interesting than you think. Bertie Carvel as Cornelius Fudge. Let's start with the Ministry of Magic's walking PR disaster. Cornelius Fudge. HBO tapped Bertie Carvel for the role. That's perfect. If you've seen him as Tony Blair in The Crown or in Dr. Foster, you know he can play that smiling, self-serving politician type to a T. And that's exactly what Fudge is. Not evil, not brave, just weak. Too afraid of rocking the boat to admit Voldemort is back, too invested in appearances to do the right thing. He's not evil. He just refuses to believe the truth because it's inconvenient. That's real-world political commentary wrapped in a wizard's robe. And Carvel's charm mixed with cowardice is going to make him infuriating to watch. In the best way. Belle Powley as Petunia Dursley. Petunia Dursley has always been one of the most quietly tragic characters in the story. On the surface, she's just the bitter, cruel aunt who treats Harry like dirt. But deep down, she's jealous, she's grieving. She's someone who felt shut out of a magical world she desperately wanted to be part of. As the article put it, this woman is full of emotional shrapnel. And Belle Powley is perfect for this. If you've seen her in Diary of a Teenage Girl or The Morning Show, you know she's brilliant at playing complicated women. Characters who are prickly, layered, sometimes unlikable, but always human. I think HBO is going to give us a Petunia we actually understand. Not one we forgive, but one that makes sense. Daniel Rigby as Vernon Dursley. Now, Vernon Dursley is usually a walking punchline. Loud, red-faced, mustache, hates magic. But HBO went a different way by casting Daniel Rigby. And that's fascinating, because Rigby isn't a cartoon actor. He's a BAFTA winner. The take here is more subtle, more psychological. Instead of a loudmouthed caricature, we might get a Vernon who's just a little too familiar, like that guy in your office who complains about weirdos and watches the news way too loudly. That's scarier, honestly. A Vernon who's not just mean, but real. A man who uses judgment and control to squash what he doesn't understand. If HBO plays it that way, he's going to feel less like comic relief and more like a genuine threat to Harry's childhood. Amos Kitson as Dudley Dursley. Oh man, Dudley. The spoiled cousin, the human pig in a wig. Harry Melling made him iconic in the films, but HBO is starting fresh with Amos Kitson, total newcomer. No big credits, which is kind of genius because Dudley shouldn't feel like an actor playing a brat. He should feel like an actual brat. The big question here is whether HBO is going to give Dudley the same shallow treatment the movies did, or if they'll actually show his development from bully to someone who, shockingly, grows a little empathy by the end. The books gave us glimpses of that. The films didn't. If Amos can pull it off, Dudley might go from punchline to legit character. Tristan Harland and Gabriel Harland as Fred and George Weasley. This one's a casting miracle. Actual twins playing Fred and George Weasley. Tristan and Gabriel Harland aren't big names yet, but they've worked together before and even switched to a flexible mini-school setup so they can commit to the series long-term. That's how you know HBO is planning to make the twins a major presence. Pranksters, entrepreneurs, comic relief, and eventually fighters in the war. Reports even say their wardrobe gives them cheeky retro vibes. Leathers, big lapels, flares, making sure you spot them instantly in any crowd. Honestly, that feels right for Fred and George. Rory Spooner as Percy Weasley. Every family has that sibling. For the Weasleys, it's Percy, the rule-following prefect, the one who puts ambition above family, until it all comes crashing down. Rory Spooner is stepping into those shoes, and he looks set to nail the long game. Percy starts as the slightly annoying older brother, but his arc becomes one of betrayal and redemption. Having him cast early means HBO is planning to show the full Weasley family dynamic. Fun-loving twins, earnest Ron, fierce Ginny, and the brother who's just a little too into that shiny badge. Gracie Cochran as Ginny Weasley. Now for the youngest Weasley, Ginny. And HBO tapped Gracie Cochran, a trained actress with West End experience from Sylvia Young Theatre School. She's already got a stack of credits for her age, which is a good sign considering Ginny has one of the biggest arcs. Fun fact, she's also a legit fan. She said, "My favorite film is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I've read all the books loads of times, but Goblet introduces some new characters. That's the energy you want." Early Ginny is quiet, shy, almost invisible, but her trajectory takes her to bold, powerful, independent. Gracie seems ready for that climb. Now here's one that's got me hyped. Rory Wilmot as Neville Longbottom. Neville is the ultimate underdog story. Starts out clumsy, forgetful, insecure, ends up slaying Nagini in the final battle. He literally embodies the idea of growing into your own courage. And Rory Wilmot? He's a relative newcomer. Some small roles here and there, but not a household name. That's perfect. Neville isn't supposed to feel like a star from day one. He's supposed to feel overlooked. The casting notice described him as Gryffindor's star herbology pupil, which is true, but we all know the real payoff is later, when he stands up to Voldemort in front of everyone. If Rory nails this arc, he could walk away one of the show's biggest fan favorites. Warwick Davis as Professor Flitwick. Now this one is special. Warwick Davis is back as Professor Flitwick. Yep, the same Warwick Davis from the original films. This is the first time HBO has brought back an original actor for the reboot. The announcement even dropped on Back to Hogwarts Day on September 1st. In the books, he's a bigger presence. Head of Ravenclaw House, Master of Charms, and a legit fighter in the Battle of Hogwarts. With Davis back, this is HBO's chance to finally give him the depth he deserves. And let's be real. Having at least one familiar face makes the reboot feel less like a total replacement and more like a continuation of the Harry Potter legacy. Louise Brealey as Madame Hooch. Okay, this one's fun. Louise Brealey, aka Molly Hooper from Sherlock, is now Madame Hooch. Now in the films, Madame Hooch taught Harry how to fly in one scene, then disappeared forever. But in the books, she's around. She refs Quidditch. She shows up in multiple storylines. Casting Brealey here feels like HBO saying, yeah, we're actually going to use these side characters. Which I'm all for. Brealey's got that sharp, funny, slightly intimidating energy that's going to make Madame Hooch way more memorable. Anton Lesser as Ollivander. If you watched Game of Thrones, you'll remember him as Qyburn. Creepy, brilliant, and unsettling. And now he's stepping into John Hurt's shoes as the mysterious wandmaker. That's a big legacy to carry, because Hurt's Ollivander was iconic. But Lesser's got the quiet intensity to pull it off. Expect his "the wand chooses the wizard" line to give you full-body chills. Next up, Paul Whitehouse as Argus Filch, the grumpy caretaker of Hogwarts. In the films, Filch was played mostly for laughs, constantly chasing kids, screaming about discipline, doting on Mrs. Norris. But deep down, Filch is tragic. He's a squib. A man born into the magical world with no magic of his own, forced to clean up after kids who take it all for granted. Filch has always been portrayed as bitter, but there's always been a darker edge to him. He's not just bitter. He's broken. White House is a comedy legend, but the best comedians know how to play sadness too. Expect this version of Filch to be more unsettling, less cartoonish, and maybe, just maybe, a little heartbreaking. Luke Thalin as Quirrell. Let's be honest. Most people forgot about Professor Quirrell after Book 1. Nervous, stuttering, hiding Voldemort on the back of his head like a creepy roommate. But here's the thing. If HBO plays this right, Quirrell could go from plot twist to psychological thriller. Casting Luke Thalin is smart. He's a stage actor with serious chops, known for intensity and nuance. And as one write-up said, he can play vulnerable without slipping into caricature. And he has the quiet intensity to suggest that there's something lurking beneath the surface. That's exactly the trick with Quirrell. He has to feel harmless, almost pathetic, until the mask drops and you realize he's been the villain all along. If Thalin leans into subtle dread instead of goofy nervousness, this could be one of the biggest glow-ups in the reboot. Leo Early as Seamus Finnegan. Ah yes, Seamus Finnegan, Gryffindor's very own human firecracker. In the films, he was comic relief, explosions, mishaps, thick Irish accent. But the books gave him way more depth, and HBO now has the time to explore it. Enter Leo Early, a complete newcomer. Bold choice. Seamus isn't born a hero. He's the kid who doubts Harry, believes the Ministry's lies, argues with friends, and then grows into someone brave enough to fight at Hogwarts. Not everyone's born a hero. Some people have to work through fear, media lies, and peer pressure. And that journey? Low-key emotional. If Leo can show that transformation, Seamus might become one of the most relatable characters in the series. Oh, and yes, we better still get at least one accidental explosion. Alessia Leone as Parvati Patil. In the films, Parvati Patil basically disappeared after the Yule Ball. But in the books, she's much more present. A Gryffindor in Harry's year, best friends with Lavender, and someone who actually takes divination seriously. Alessia Leone, another fresh face, now gets to bring her to life. And Parvati isn't just about bravery with a sword. She's emotional, intuitive, spiritual, expressive. As one fan put it, she's not just brave in a fight the troll kind of way. She's emotionally open, spiritual, expressive. She trusts her instincts. This could give us a totally different flavor of Gryffindor. Not just courage through combat, but courage through vulnerability and belief. Sienna Musa as Lavender Brown. Okay, let's clear the air. Lavender Brown got done dirty in the films. She was reduced to one-wand jokes and clinginess. But in the books, she was a full Gryffindor, a fighter, and someone who survived a werewolf attack. Now, Sienna Musa has the chance to redeem Lavender. She's dramatic, yes. Loud, yes. But she's also affectionate, emotional, and real. The only Hogwarts girl who actually feels like a teenager sometimes. As the description put it, she's a full-on Gryffindor who joins Dumbledore's army, fights in the Battle of Hogwarts, and survives a werewolf attack. If HBO lets her be complex, annoying, and brave, sweet, and strong, Lavender could become one of the best reimagined characters in the whole show. Erin Zhao as Terry Boot. Finally, a Ravenclaw gets some love. Erin Zhao is cast as Terry Boot, one of Harry's yearmates who shows up across the books but was cut from the films. This is huge. Boot is at Harry's sorting, shows up at the dueling club, attends the first Dumbledore's army meeting, and later plays a role in the hunt for Ravenclaw's diadem. A literal Horcrux. His role should be recurring, and we should normally see him appear in multiple seasons. That's exactly what the TV format can do. give space to secondary characters and flesh out all four houses. Zhao's got a background in musicals and is already lined up for a film with Anya Chalotra, The Witcher, so he's got the chops to make Boot memorable. Mickey McAnulty as Piers Polkiss. Yep, HBO's even casting the bullies from Little Whinging. Mickey McAnulty is playing Piers Polkiss, Dudley's best mate and part of the crew that tormented Harry as a kid. McAnulty's not brand new. He's been in trying, 2021 to 2022. And he was spotted filming his scenes in July 2025. Piers isn't a huge role, but including him shows HBO's attention to detail in making the Dursley world feel as real as Hogwarts. Elijah Ocean as Dean Thomas. Finally, Dean Thomas is going to get some actual screen time. In the films, Dean was basically the other Gryffindor in Harry's dorm. But in the books, he's an artist, a football fan, a Quidditch player, and a kid with a heartbreaking backstory. His wizard father disappeared, leaving him to grow up thinking he was Muggle-born. Elijah Ocean now gets to bring that out. With more time across multiple seasons, Dean could finally become the fleshed-out character he always should have been. Finn Stevens as Vincent Crabbe and William Nash as Gregory Goyle. What's Draco without his henchmen? Crabbe and Goyle are back, played by Finn Stevens and William Nash. In the films, they were mostly background bullies, but the books gave them sharper edges, especially Crabbe, who unleashes fiend fire in the Room of Requirement. HBO can start laying the groundwork for that darker side earlier, instead of treating them as comic relief. Expect these two to embody the muscle of Slytherin House. Richard Durden as Professor Cuthbert Binns. This one shocked me. HBO actually cast Professor Binns. If you don't remember him, that's because the films cut him entirely. He's the ghost who teaches history of magic, infamous for being so boring students fall asleep mid-lecture. Richard Durden is stepping in, and honestly, that's great. Including Binns shows HBO's commitment to book accuracy and world building. Even if he's comic relief, he adds texture to Hogwarts life. Asha Soitan as Angelina Johnson. Last but not least, Angelina Johnson. In the films, she was barely there. But in the books, she's a major Quidditch player, later captain, and eventually George Weasley's wife. Asha Soitan is taking the role, and this time Angelina is listed as a series regular. That's huge. It means we'll actually see her on the Quidditch pitch, in the Gryffindor common room, and maybe even leading storylines of her own. Soitan's already got credits in Odd Squad, The Friend, and she's lined up for DC's Supergirl. She's on the rise, and Angelina might be her breakout role. Serene Saba as Professor Pomona Sprout. Finally, some love for the Hufflepuffs. Serene Saba is playing Professor Pomona Sprout, head of Hufflepuff House and herbology expert. The films basically sidelined her to mandrake duty, but the books made her much more important. She's a teacher, a fighter, and eventually one of the defenders of Hogwarts during the final battle. Casting Saba tells me HBO is actually going to flesh her out. And that's a huge win for Hufflepuff fans who've been waiting forever to see their house get more than 5 minutes of screen time. Expect her to be warm, earthy, but also strong when it counts. Brid Brennan as Madame Pomfrey. The unsung hero of Hogwarts. Brid Brennan is stepping in as Madame Poppy Pomfrey. If you only watch the films, you probably think of Pomfrey as the nurse who patched up Quidditch injuries. But in the books, she's way more. She treats cursed wounds. She stands up to Umbridge. She's basically Hogwarts' first line of defense whenever disaster strikes, which is every other week. Casting an actress of Brennan's caliber signals that Pomfrey is finally getting her due. And honestly, it's about time. Without her, half of Gryffindor wouldn't have made it to third year. And finally, Lee Gill is taking over the role of Griphook the Goblin. In the films, Warwick Davis played both Flitwick and Griphook, which worked at the time but got a little confusing. With Davis returning as Flitwick in the series, HBO made the smart choice to split the roles. And Gill is a strong pick. Griphook isn't just a background goblin. By Deathly Hallows, he's central to the Gringotts heist. He's cunning, ambitious, and his betrayal of Harry adds a sharp edge to the story. Gil has the fantasy experience to make Griphook more than a side note. So yeah, this supporting cast, it's stacked. These characters might not be on posters, but they're the connective tissue that makes Hogwarts feel alive. HBO clearly isn't just focusing on the trio, they're building the world. All right, now let's get into the fun part. The mysteries. The names HBO hasn't announced yet, and the roles everyone is speculating about. Voldemort/Tom Riddle. This is the big one. Who's going to play Lord Voldemort? Here's what we know. Apparently he's already cast. Signed and filming. But HBO is keeping it top secret, with no plans to announce before the season airs. That's not just secrecy. That's strategy. Voldemort literally is he who must not be named. So, keeping him hidden until his on-screen reveal? Genius. Leaks suggest he'll show up multiple times in Season 1. Not just as the CGI face on Quirrell's head, but also in flashbacks. We might actually see Godric's Hollow, the attack on the Potters, maybe even young Tom Riddle moments. That's a shift from the books, but it gives HBO the chance to make him a looming presence right from the start. Two names keep popping up: Cillian Murphy and Matt Smith. Murphy would be terrifying. Cold, intense, chilling. Imagine Peaky Blinders' Tommy Shelby, but noseless and hissing spells. Smith has that eerie charisma, but he's denied it, saying, "Can anyone play him after Ralph Fiennes?" He was so good. Hypothetically, who knows? But following in the footsteps of the great Ralph Fiennes is a very difficult mantle for someone. So good luck to whoever it is. It ain't gonna be me. So either HBO is hiding an A-lister, or they're going with an unknown to really surprise us. Either way, when Voldemort finally appears, the internet is going to break. Now, speaking of Riddle, there's a fan-fueled rumor about Owen Cooper playing him in later seasons. Right now, it's just speculation, mostly based on his past roles and his vibe. It makes sense. The Riddle we meet in Chamber of Secrets isn't full Voldemort yet. He's polite, charming, brilliant, but underneath, there's manipulation and menace. Cooper could pull that off, but for now, it's pure fandom chatter. Don't believe any confirmed headlines. And then there's the list of roles we're still waiting on. Sirius Black, easily one of the most beloved characters in the entire franchise. Whoever gets this role will instantly be fan-cast, debated, and judged. James and Lily Potter, heartbreaking, essential, and guaranteed to appear in flashbacks from the very start. Arthur, Bill, and Charlie Weasley. The Weasley family tree isn't complete yet, and fans are eager to see the dynamic in full. Remus Lupin, arguably the most beloved Defense Against the Dark Arts professor. Gentle, tragic, and one of the hardest roles to nail. Alastair Mad-Eye Moody won't appear until later seasons, but speculation is already running wild. Peeves, yes, he's finally here after being cut from the films. Expect chaos. These are huge roles, and HBO knows it. Get them right, and fan trust skyrockets. Get them wrong, and well, Potter fans don't exactly stay quiet. Here's the clever part. HBO doesn't need to announce everything yet. By pacing themselves, they keep the fandom buzzing, the theories flowing, and the headlines coming. Every drip of news becomes an event. But let me say this. Voldemort's reveal is going to be the moment. The first time we see the Dark Lord in this reboot is going to melt the internet. And there you have it. The confirmed cast, the big surprises, the returning legend, and the roles still shrouded in mystery. So tell me in the comments, who are you most excited about? Do you think Arabella Stanton is Hermione? Or are you worried about Paapa Essiedu as Snape? And who do you want as Voldemort? If you're still watching, you're a legend. Hit that like button, smash subscribe, and I'll be dropping updates the second more casting news hits. Trust me. When Voldemort gets revealed, you're gonna want to be here first. Peace.